adventurer is expelled from his team and humiliated for lacking skills. After that, Aaron abandons his role as a swordsman to become an enhancement mage, determined to prove to everyone that he is the strongest mage. Our story begins with the hero of the tale, Aaron, an adventurer from the hero's party. We see him standing in one of the magical mazes, killing wild rabbits. He says, "I still maintain my fitness and strength, and I am not weak as they say about me." He states that he can be a very strong swordsman. We see him finishing off a very large number of wild rabbits. After he finishes them, a number of goblins appear. At that moment, our hero Aaron decides to use support magic to raise his strength and be able to defeat them. Indeed, he activates the Enhancement skill and manages to raise his abilities. We learn that this Enhancement skill increases the skill of any fighter and makes them stronger than before. Furthermore, you can use this Enhancement skill on yourself or your team. We see our hero Aaron attacking the goblins and starting to finish them off with a bam pow. If you were a mage, you could also increase your magic power using the Enhancement skill. However, when he finishes the first group of goblins, he is surprised that this Enhancement skill has a time limit, which is 3 minutes. Our hero Aaron tries to finish off all the goblins during this time before the 3 minutes run out. He actually succeeds in eliminating a large number of them. He says it is natural that this support skill cannot last for a long time, and its continuation depends on the person's resistance to magic. In our hero Aaron's case, the duration of his support magic is 3 minutes. After the time runs out, he renews the support magic skill on himself again, and is able to finish off the goblins. Then we go to a flashback and we learn that our hero Aaron was expelled from the hero's party he was in because they say he is weak and his level doesn't allow him to continue with them. The leader, Oliver, tells him, "We gave you very many chances, but you didn't prove your competence." Our hero is obviously shocked when he hears this. He tells them, "So you are just going to use me up and throw me away like bones?" They decide to be frank with him and tell him, "You have become a burden on us, and we can't tolerate you anymore." Oliver tells him, "Enough is enough, please, leave with your dignity." We learn that our hero Aaron and leader Oliver formed this party about 8 years ago. Together they managed to get this team to Sir rank. They were also the first team to reach the 94th floor in the Great Southern Dungeon. This party became very famous and everyone loved them. Aaron tells Oliver, "The problem isn't just with me." Oliver interrupts him and says, "Don't try to argue because your level is very weak. Last month, when we were on a mission in the dungeon, your support level was very weak compared to the support mages we saw there. That's when we confirmed you are a very weak support mage." Aaron tells them, "I am originally a swordsman, and I was forced to change my profession for your sake to be a support mage." One of the team members tells him, "You changed your specialization because Oliver masters the use of the sword better than you, and you agreed to that." Aaron tells them, "I tried to create a balance between using the sword and support magic." The female mage with them says, "Don't try. Your level is weak whether you are a swordsman or a support mage." Then Oliver tells him, "We brought a new support mage to replace you, and you are useless." Literally, our hero gets humiliated, and it is clear he has no dignity as he tries to stay with them, but they insist in the end that he leaves the team and finds an S-rank team to join. Aaron says to them, "So you are betraying me like this?" In the end, he agrees to leave their team, but before he leaves, the female mage in the hero's party tells him, "You are a failure in using support magic and also the sword. You are like someone who has more than one job but isn't good at any of them." We return from the flashback and see our hero Aaron trying to reach a style where he combines support magic and his sword style to be very strong. He says, "One day I will be able to do this." Then we see him registering at the teleportation crystal. He says, "The card I have can get me into the 7th floor directly." Suddenly, he finds a group of adventurers running. They look like they are escaping from a monster and are terrified. He hears them talking, saying, "The orc monsters we met were very strong." Their leader tells them, "We left the adventurer who just joined us behind, and I had to save you guys because you are my friends from way back." Of course, Aaron hears this and gets annoyed. He knows they are absolute lowlives. He tells them, "You are the lowest adventurers I have ever seen in my life. How could you abandon one of your team members so easily?" The leader of the other team says, "I couldn't do anything. If I stayed, I would have died with her." He asks Aaron, "How dare you speak to me like that?" and runs at him to hit him. But Aaron grabs his hand, gives him a suplex, and knocks him to the ground. We then go to the female adventurer standing in front of the giant orc monsters, very scared and not knowing what to do. The orc monsters approach her and prepare to finish her off. Immediately, this adventurer creates a magical barrier to block their attack and stop them from reaching her. But the orc monsters keep attacking the barrier until they actually succeed in breaking it. We see the adventurer scared and crying, saying, "I wish someone was here to save me." Suddenly, my friend, we find a magical vortex of air knocking away all the orc monsters. Our hero Aaron attacks them with full speed, but the orc leader blocks his attack. So Aaron decides to use the power enhancement skill. He manages to vanish in seconds from in front of him. The adventurer is surprised that Aaron can use the power enhancement skill and is also skilled in using the sword at the same time. Then our hero Aaron attacks the orc leader and manages to slice him in half. After that, he uses support magic on his sword, making it much stronger. We see the orc monsters getting angry after their leader died, running at Aaron to kill him. And Hoopa, my friend, you feel like he is Superman. He finishes the first one with a single blow. He realizes how strong these monsters are, which is why her team ran away and left her alone, but he says, no matter their strength, it is impossible for them to defeat me. Literally, my friend, he keeps moving like a knife through butter. Amidst them, he keeps slicing them until he finishes them all off. Then he checks on the adventurer, who is crying tears of joy, unable to believe she is still alive. When Eren goes out of the dungeon and leaves her to walk away, she calls out to him and says, I am very thankful for your help. On this occasion, I want to treat you to dinner. Eren introduces himself to her. She takes him to a very expensive restaurant and tells him, no money is wasted on you, my friend. Eren notices the emblem on her shoulder. She belongs to a group called the Silver Night Sky Rabbits, one of the best guilds containing the strongest mages and adventurers. As soon as they enter the restaurant, the adventurer with him notices her sister sitting at a table alone and calls her. Eren is surprised when he sees her sister. It seems he knows her. We learn that the adventurer Eren saved is named Sophia. Her sister tells her there was a meeting here a while ago that just finished. She asks, who is this you brought with you? Besides, you are still too young for going out and dating. When she sees Eren, she says, it's you. We learn the big sister's name is Salma. Sophia is surprised and asks, do you know each other? Eren tells her, yes, I know her. Your big sister is named Selma, leader of the strongest S-rank party in the Silver Rabbits team. She is known as the strongest support and enhancement mage in the continent. She is the one who innovated the idea that every member of the team has a different role. Attackers to fight enemies, defenders to block hits, and support mages to raise their level and help from the back. She changed the mindset of adventurers significantly. Basically, your sister is extremely famous and well-known, globally. He says to himself, my team saw her last month on her mission and were totally dazzled by her. That was the reason they kicked me out of the team. Eren is surprised that she is very angry, and he doesn't know the reason. She tells him, how dare you date a girl as young as my sister? Eren tells her, you misunderstood. I just came to have dinner with her, nothing more. She tells him, you mean my sister is ugly? But Sophia interrupts immediately and tells her sister, you can't talk to the one who saved my life like that. Salma learns that her little sister entered a dungeon without her permission, but she is happy her sister wasn't harmed. She thanks Eren for helping and saving her. They sit together afterward. Eren tells Sophia, I saw your sister last month in the maze when we were on a mission together. Salma tells Sophia, we cooperated to finish the mission together. She tells Eren, you helped me a lot in the mission so I could execute it successfully. Basically, she isn't trying to belittle him at all. She is surprised that her sister Sophia doesn't know Eren. She asks, is Eren not famous or what? Sophia says, he is a member of the famous Heroes Guild, but Eren interrupts her and says, I am no longer a member there, I was fired. She is surprised. How could they fire someone like Eren? It seems they don't appreciate your value or power well. Eren tells her, everyone has their own reasons, and in the end we were understanding when I left the team. She says, so you are currently a vagabond with no job. He says, exactly. He thinks to himself, it looks like she wants me to join the Silver Rabbits team. But he tells her, right now, I'd like to be alone and don't want to join any team. However, Salma asks him to be an escort for their expedition without being a member. She tells him, we have new adventurer recruits and we are taking them on a training expedition. We want you to be an escort with us. Don't worry, you will get paid for this. She tells him, there are A-rank leaders who will lead these new adventurers during training and you will be with them. She says the expedition lasts 3 days and they will go down to the 50th floor in the Great Southern Dungeon. He is surprised and asks, how? Only 3 days? That's a very short time. For new adventurers to enter this dungeon, they need at least 6 months to a year. She says, I know it's hard, but not impossible. Our sponsors requested this themselves. He asks her, what is your sponsor's goal and why do they want this done in such a short time? He understands that they want to try to recruit the strongest adventurers by putting them in a very difficult dungeon to determine their level. Whoever succeeds in these tests and kills the boss of each floor will be qualified to join the Silver Rabbits team. Salma notices that Eren is very smart and understood the sponsor's goal easily. He says, clearly this expedition is very important to the Silver Rabbits Guild. He asks her, won't you be afraid that an outsider like me joins this important expedition of yours? Immediately, she holds his hand and tells him, you are a very important person to me. He thinks to himself, I am happy she appreciates me this much, even though my team fired me and abandoned me so easily. But Eren refuses and tells her, I appreciate your concern, but I have other goals and plans in my mind right now. However, Sophia tells Eren, I will join this expedition, and I would be very happy if you joined me and were there with me. She keeps begging him to agree, so Eren tells Salma, I want to tell you something important. He says, right now, my job is a swordsman, not an enhancer as you imagine. If I decide to participate with you in the expedition, I will participate as a swordsman. When she asks him for the reason, Eren remains silent and doesn't answer, so she agrees that he joins them for the expedition as a swordsman. She tells him, if you agree to join us, we will wait for you at the Silver Rabbits Guild tomorrow morning. He then arrives at a magical tool shop and sits with the old man who owns the shop. He tells him, I was fired from the hero's team. He says, I won't be able to promote your magical products now since I've become unemployed. It seems the old man knows Eren's abilities and knows he is a hardworking person. He tells him, don't be sad. I love you very much, whether you help me or not. He says, "I know that in the future you will be a very important and successful person." Finally, he tells him, "I want you to make any decision from your own head, and I want you to do whatever you see as right. I will always be on your side." The next morning, he goes to the Silver Rabbits Guild and meets Selma. She tells him, "It seems vitality and energy are showing on you more than yesterday." And with this, the first episode ends with us. To watch the upcoming episodes, please subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button to receive everything new.
The episode begins with Oron and Selma arriving at the workplace of Vince Prayers, the leader of the Silver Night Sky Rabbits clan. Vince welcomes Oron and his companion, noting that he had heard about Oron leaving the Heroes Party and coming to work with them. Oron expresses that he is honored to meet the leader of such a famous clan, then asks Vince to hear more details about this educational expedition. Vince delegates the explanation to Selma, who explains that they will ascend from the 1st floor to the 51st floor of the Great Dungeon within 3 days. Specifically, they will finish the first day at the 21st floor, the second day at the 36th floor, and on the third day they will reach the 51st floor. After the conversation ends, Oron leaves while Selma remains with Vince. They discuss Oron leaving the Heroes Party, agreeing that this is a devastating loss for the party and that their strength will weaken significantly without him. His support magic had brought the party to a level they were otherwise incapable of reaching. Although the effects of his magic are below average in raw power, his casting speed is amazing. He is at least 4 times faster than Selma. Furthermore, he utilizes several original spells that enable him to analyze the situation, predict the next move, and provide magical support at the exact right moment. He possesses all the skills required of an enchanter, and the Heroes Party will suffer greatly from his departure. The conversation then shifts to the Silver Rabbits, as they believe their return to the top seems more plausible now. They note that enchanters often do not receive the appreciation they deserve. Indeed, while Selma is famous, people tend to overestimate her, whereas powerful individuals like Oron do not stand out. Vince then meets with Oron and Selma again to continue their discussion. He explains that there are 10 teams of beginners and 5 escorts, including Oron and Selma, and that the beginner teams will take turns dealing with monsters. If anything unusual occurs, the escorts will intervene to handle it. Oron grasps the situation quickly, and Selma asks if he has any other questions. He asks why there are only 5 escorts and if this insane schedule is truly necessary, suggesting they would typically want to minimize risks by involving several A-rank teams to support the beginners. Selma replies that he is correct. While their goal is to get the beginners to the 51st floor, applying some excess pressure will help them grow, making this an ideal opportunity for them to gain experience. Oron does not believe her, knowing they want to accomplish this quickly and that there must be another underlying reason, but realizes they won't tell him because he is an outsider. He decides to help them anyway. Vince thanks him and rewards him with 2 gold coins in advance, with another 10 to follow if the mission succeeds. Oron is shocked by the amount, as it is very high, equivalent to a full year's expenses, but they did this because they value him highly. Selma then bids him farewell, expecting him the following day. The next morning, Oron arrived at the Great Dungeon and finds the beginner groups. At that moment, Selma and Sophia arrive and welcome him. Oron compliments the outfit Sophia is wearing, causing her to become very shy. However, Oron is not shy, as he is accustomed to speaking with girls from the Heroes Party, having lived in the same palace with them. Since leaving them, Oron no longer lives there. Sophia asks where he lives now, and he replies that he is currently staying at an inn. He knows he needs to find a home soon, but is still looking. At that moment, Selma notices Oron is standing apart from the rest of the group and asks him why. Oron answers that as an outsider, he thinks his presence might unsettle the beginners, as everyone appears very tense. Selma asks him to help ease their tension instead. She instructs him to follow her and tells Sophia to join her team. Selma approaches the other 3 escorts and introduces them to Oron, assuring him that he will help and guaranteeing he is very strong. Oron speaks to them, identifying himself as a vanguard. The other 3 escorts introduce themselves as well. Oron wonders internally if he hadn't come, would they have assigned someone else to the vanguard role? He feels there's something strange about this mission. At that moment, Selma recalls her conversation with Vince when he told her he understood how she felt after losing a very strong member. However, the question remained, is Oron a support mage like her or not? Given the necessity of party balance, they couldn't add him to the first group. Selma realizes Vince was right. They haven't advanced a single step since last year, and are still stuck, unable to recover what they lost. This is why they turned to Oron. However, he volunteered to be a swordsman. If he can fulfill the role of a vanguard, everything will be fine. Returning to reality, Selma states that they have 3 days of hard work ahead of them, and must first welcome the beginners. They proceed to welcome them, and she encourages the group, announcing that today they will begin their descent to the 51st floor of the Great Dungeon. She knows they appear very nervous about entering the middle levels of the dungeon, but she assures them that she has brought powerful backup in case of emergencies. Then she introduces Oron, revealing that he reached the 94th floor, a depth they have never reached before. She adds that if they want to be dungeon explorers, they surely must know him, as he was a member of the Heroes Party and knows the Great Dungeon better than all of them. Everyone is shocked to hear this, but Selma calms them and hypes them up, declaring that they will now reach the 51st floor. Selma speaks, telling everyone to get ready until it is time to enter, but she wants to conduct a final check with them. She goes to Oron, explaining to him regarding the fact that he reached the 94th floor, stating that part of our job is to ensure the students' peace of mind and guarantee their focus within the dungeon. She adds, I want you to escort group number 10. They are the most outstanding beginners. If they learn to work as a team, they will be able to reach the middle levels easily. After that, Oron introduces himself to them, telling them he'll be their escort for 3 days. He is surprised when he learns that their team is only 3, because the smaller the number of party members, the greater the danger, especially for beginners. When one specific boy speaks, Oron realizes that he is arrogant and that the clan pins great hopes on him, noting internally, but I will worry about his future. Oron continues his conversation with them, stating that if everyone is present, that is good, and asks them to introduce themselves. The boy begins by introducing himself as Logan, the leader of Group 10. He states he is an enchanter and the man who will marry Selma one day. Afterwards, Caroline introduces herself as a defender, but she neither uses armor nor a shield. She does not want monsters to touch her, but she wants to kill many of them, so she chose to become a defender to get as close to them as possible. Oron tells her that she is an evasion-type defender, asking if she intends to use defense to deflect attacks or if she wants to dodge quickly. He warns her that relying on evasion is difficult until one gains combat experience. Then Logan interjects, saying that many people warned her, but she didn't listen to anyone and ignored them. After them, Sophia introduces herself as the rear guard and a mage. A quarrel breaks out between Logan and Caroline, so Oron looks at them with annoyance, saying, "This mission seems difficult." Following this, they descend into the dungeon. Caroline asks Oron, why is there a person from the Heroes Party on this expedition? Does this mean you do not consider our clan a rival? Oron informs her that he was a member but withdrew, though he didn't want to tell anyone about this. Caroline then tells him that Sophia is the person who knows everything, because she told them an amazing person would be joining them. Sophia replies to her, yes, because he saved my life and was very strong. He said he was a part of the Heroes Party. We will never worry with him present. Oron then speaks to himself, thinking, I am not a hero in reality. I mentioned the matter just to reassure Sophia. Perhaps she cares for others more than it appears. Suddenly, wolves appear, and the group moves to confront them, but Oron spots them first. He uses his power to kill them instantly, saying, the trap spell I set works well. It is difficult for the enemy to detect until it is actually activated. It is an effective means of dealing with the monsters behind us without delaying us. Our time is limited. I do not want to waste it on futile battles. Oron was walking and observing their fighting style, thinking they would do well in the rest of the training expedition. He had reckoned that Logan was just an arrogant beginner, but he possesses real skill. If he can maintain his performance in long battles, he would easily fit into an A-rank team. His flaw is that he is not good at issuing commands, which is essential for an enchanter, but he will surely improve with experience. Caroline's speed is just as expected from someone who wants to become an evasion-type defender, but there are two problems. The first is that when finding a monster, she attacks it directly. Since she is a defender, she has to get close to the enemy, but her style is worrisome. The other problem is that she uses only 2 daggers as weapons. They are suitable for her style, but they are not sufficient as a destructive force for the party. Sophia is not as dazzling as Caroline, but her level already exceeds that of beginners. She was hesitant, but that will change when she opens up to her teammates, and she possesses no major flaws for a beginner.
The scene shifts to the heroes fighting and defeating the floor 20 boss. Selma told them they did well and asked them to proceed to the 21st floor and register the floor on their guild card. Thus, their day ends. The scene shifts again to Selma talking with Oron, asking him if he enjoyed his role as an escort. He told her that Group 10 has a lot of potential, but they do not work together, and that he is worried about Caroline. She told him that Caroline has improved a lot compared to before. Then she left him, and they both went their separate ways. Later, Oron is seen holding an article on the front page about the Heroes Party and the addition of a new enchanter to their ranks. He talks to himself, realizing this means his expulsion from the party has become known to everyone now. He had hoped they would wait until the educational expedition was over, but he doesn't imagine all the beginners read the news. However, if some read it, it would affect their opinion of him. He then got dressed and left the room. He was walking along the road, thinking he would go to the meeting place. While walking, Luna stopped him and told him she hadn't seen him for a while. He confirmed this. He was talking to himself, noting that even when the rest of the members became colder toward Oron, Luna's treatment of him did not change. When he was expelled, she had been absent due to an errand at her home. He asked her if she needed anything. She asked him to return to their party, saying they needed Oron's power. Oron asked her if the rest of the party needed that, though he did not believe so because of today's article. She told him that this was her request alone, but if he accompanied her, she would do her utmost to convince everyone. He asked himself if Luna was serious about this request. He told her that after this news, he could not return again, and he did not want to return. Luna apologized to him, saying she had not seen today's newspaper, so she did not know what was written. She told him that she was making a promise with him. He pulled his hands away from Luna's hand and told her that he, Oliver, and Luna had made the promise together, and Oliver was the one who expelled him, so it would not come true. He apologized to her and left. While walking, Oron was talking to himself, thinking that he wanted the three of them to remain as they always were, but there is no turning back now. He felt there is no place for him there, and that everything has ended. And so, our episode ends today. To find out the rest of the events, please subscribe to the channel to follow the upcoming episodes.
Episode begins with Orhan on the way thinks about how he was banished from the heroes party, and that's what the newspaper clearly mentioned today, which means that all the new recruits probably are confused about what to think of him anymore, especially considering that Selma hyped him so much for being from the heroes party. But now the truth came crashing down. He soon arrives at the dungeon entrance where he finds all the rookies waiting to go in, but the entire energy has completely changed, clearly meaning that every single person here has already seen today's newspaper. The newbies talk amongst themselves about the fact that Orhan isn't in the heroes party anymore, while Logan thinks about how it would have been a different thing if Orhan left the party out of his own volition. But the fact that the paper clearly stated that Orhan was kicked out of the heroes party for being too weak completely changes everything. Orhan tries to greet the rookies, but he gets a mixed bag of a response from them, realizing that he is not as welcome here as he was just yesterday, all because of some stupid newspaper headlines. Then Selma arrives alongside Aunt Byrne and Kathy and immediately apologizes to Orhan for causing a misunderstanding, since she was the one who kind of pushed the fact that he used to be in the Hero S party to put the rookies at ease. Orhan immediately tells her that this is no fault of hers, and she should hold her head up as high as ever and lead the party into the dungeons while he provides support. Aunt Byrne and Kathy chime in, claiming that it doesn't matter what the issue is between Orhan and the heroes party. The fact remains that Orhan is one of the very few people alive in this world who have gone to the 94th floor and lived to tell the tale. This gives Orhan some relief from the constant scrutiny, and he heads towards his party, where Sophia and Carol bid him good morning with all their heart. But Logan seems to be a little hesitant and doesn't know how exactly should he treat Orhan. Orhan decides to break the ice himself and asks his party whether they saw the newspaper today, and both Sophia and Carol replied that they did see the newspaper, but it's not worth reading since it's full of lies. Logan, however, doesn't subscribe to Fox News, so he is used to hearing the truth and asks Orhan whether the newspaper told the truth. Orhan replies that technically the newspaper is the truth, since he did get banished from the party on the account of him being too weak. According to the other members of the party, he apologizes to them for not telling them about it from the get-go, claiming that he is not really the hero that everyone expects him to be. Sophia can't handle it anymore and replies that he is not telling the truth, claiming that he is super strong, as she saw him take on a huge horde of orcs all alone and defeating them without breaking a single sweat. Orhan thanks her for believing in him and tells the rest of their party that even though he is not a party of the heroes party anymore, he is still capable enough to easily help them reach the 51st floor, and asks them to believe in him. The girls seem to be content with that, but Logan seems disappointed as he feels like he was betrayed. They soon entered the dungeons, and this day the recruits are supposed to go from the 21st floor till the 35th floor, but even now he is not supposed to give them any orders or guidance and just stay back and observe, only jumping in if things start getting too out of hand. Their journey continues smoothly as Carol deals with all the monsters on the 24th floor with the help of her twin daggers and her uploads and personal fighting style, while Sophia manages to deal with the bigger monsters on level 30, surprising even Orhan, who wonders whether he underestimated Sophia a little. Soon they move on to the 31st floor, which are the middle floors, and that means that now the rookies are in unknown territory and need the advice and help of their guides who are with them. This time, Orhan takes the lead and walks ahead of his party, making sure that nothing out of the ordinary is hiding on this floor, when he suddenly feels the presence of a bunch of goblins ahead and tells his party to get ready to fight. He also realizes that a stray orc has also seemingly wandered in the same area, which might make the fight a little tricky. But since his batch of rookies are pretty good at fighting, he has no worries about losing this battle. He immediately tells Carol to attack the goblins while he tells Sophia to deal with the orc with the help of her long-range magical spells. They both follow his instructions as Sophia immediately jumps into attack mode and starts clashing against the goblins while Sophia gets ready to take on a goblin. Orhan then turns towards Logan, telling him to use his support magic. But before he even control his sentence, Logan already creates a bunch of magical circles and starts casting agility spells at Carol to help her get an advantage against the goblins. Logan still isn't fully convinced that a person like Orhan should be guiding him in anything, especially since he thinks Orhan's advice is so simple that anyone in his position would do the same. Suddenly, things get a little more tricky, though, as the orc triggers Sophia's PTSD and she starts panicking against it, not readying herself for an attack. This could spell disaster for them all, since even Logan is busy with his magic spells focusing on Carol. He helplessly looks at Orhan, wondering what kind of a guide is he, and why isn't he helping Sophia, when he suddenly spots Orhan creating a magical sign which decreases the speed of the orc by a lot. He then moves towards Sophia and tells her to take her time and aim true, as she is much stronger than an orc and should not be afraid of it. Sophia takes a deep breath and then produces a huge fireball which completely destroys the orc into smithereens, surprising everyone in her party, including Orhan, who had absolutely no idea that Sophia can use advanced level magic spells. Carol immediately runs back to Sophia and hugs her, while Orhan praises her for an excellent shot. Soon they reach the 35th floor as well, where they end up running into a death tarantula. Logan immediately loses his cool, thinking that they are dead since there is no way they can deal with that thing. But both Sophia and Carol have complete trust in Orhan and stand by waiting for his orders. Orhan immediately tells Logan to use agility up and strength up for Carol, while using magic up on Sophia. Logan wonders whether this guy has gone insane, as he is using the same strategy as before with no change, but he decides to follow the orders and uses the spells accordingly. Orhan then tells Carol to engage the monster in close quarters combat and make sure to keep its attention on herself. Carol nods in agreement and immediately runs ahead at the tarantula. Logan tries to stop her, but Orhan stops him, claiming that if he goes up in front, they all will be at a huge disadvantage, so they should wait and watch. Orhan then tells Sophia to jump on the monster and slash its back to shred, and Sophia immediately understands the assignment, jumping on top of its head and running her blade on it from front to back. Orhan then tells her to keep its attention to her, but she has to be careful as the spider is venomous, so she must dodge all the attacks without fail. Spider starts trying to stab Carol with its pointy legs, but she keeps dodging the attacks one after the other, and even deflecting some of the attacks back, surprising the monster. Orhan tells Logan that he needs to continue his spells on Carol, as her life is in his hands at this point. With that, he turns towards Sophia and asks her to pin the monster down. Sophia immediately understands the assignment and uses her arrow cutter ability to slash its legs down, forcing it to fall on the ground. Carol starts celebrating, but Orhan tells her to be careful, as the battle is not over yet. The advice came out too late, though, as the spider monster was undead yet, and uses its webs to grab Carol and starts pulling her towards itself. Orhan immediately tells Logan to give Carol a strength up and speed up, which he does without further arguments. Carol starts panicking and fails to free herself from the web, begging Orhan for help. Orhan tells Sophia to ready her rock arrow and uses a sharpness enhanced spell on her knives, which gives her the boost she needed to break free from the grasp of this monster. Sophia immediately follows it up by her rock arrow spell, which completely nukes the monster, killing it immediately. With that, their expedition for the day rolls down to an end, and Orhan praises Logan for his use of his support spells, as without those, his party wouldn't have been able to win today's battles. By the time they exit the caves, the sun starts setting, and Selma congratulates all the rookies on their achievements till date, claiming that they have all done a terrific job till now, and the last step of their journey will happen tomorrow, so they need to rest and eat properly. With that, they all depart their own ways when Orhan is stopped by Ant and Vern, who call him out for a lunch. And after thinking for a while, Orhan accepts the offer, as it's not every day someone offers to treat him. On their way back to the city, Logan asks Sophia about the encounter she had where Orhan first saved her life, and asks about the specifics, like what kind of spells was he using. Sophia tries to remember, and replies that he used a wind blast first, and then also used some magic to enhance his sword before slicing each and every orc into shreds. Logan realizes that something is very different about Orhan, since today he noticed that Orhan very casually used a spell to reduce the agility of the orc, which was moving towards Sophia. These kind of magic spells are known as debuffs and are incredibly hard to do. Even the most incredibly talented mages, like Selma herself, can barely use a single debuff in a couple of days. Is that too with a bunch of prep? Moreover, Orhan acted like a perfect spellcaster and knew when to use what aspect of a spell in a team fight. He knew when the exact timings of each enhancements would wear off, and even used preemptive spells to predict the movements of the enemy. This makes Logan realize that he got Orhan completely wrong, and he is not just a normal mage, but an actual genius. Back in the city, Orhan gets down at a tavern with Bern and Ant, and they tell him to order anything he wants, as it will be on them. They then start asking him about his actual role, as he used to be an enchanter in the hero's party, but now he claims to be swordsman. Orhan replies that he was always a swordsman ever since he saw his grandfather slay a huge beast that once wandered into the village. He got it stuck in his mind that no matter what, he will become a swordsman, and that wish came true for a while, as he was a swordsman in the Hero S party. But then, as they started moving to the lower levels, their pace started to slow down a little, as the intensity and strength of the monsters they were encountering was increasing. At the same time, Selma popularized the team's strategy, where everyone depended on the enchanter for decisions, so they themselves decided to follow the same strategy. Unfortunately, since their entire party had no person with the affinity to become an enchanter, their best choice was Orhan, and for the sake of the party, he decided to let go his podium as a swordsman and became an enchanter. He starts thinking bitterly that how the hero's party has zero chances of clearing the next levels anymore. Decides that it's not worth it to think about all that anymore. He then tells the boys that he now wants to become the most well-rounded swordsman who can deal with even the lower level floors on his own without the need of any party, not knowing that the very next day the Hero S party was going to pay him a visit in the very dungeons he aimed to conquer. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Episode begins with Orhan was seen heading to his final mission in the Mazmora. Upon his arrival, the apprentices greeted him. Logan was excited because it was the last day, and so was Orhan. He told them not to do anything foolish until they returned. Then Carol offered a deal. If they succeeded, she wanted Orhan to give them a prize or grant a wish. Logan asked Carolyn if she wanted something. The child confirmed it and reminded everyone of what she had said to Sophia. Before that, she wished for Orhan to stay with the silver rabbits of the night sky. Since Sophia wasn't answering, Carolyn spoke for her, proving to be a truly brave child. She turned to Orhan again and said that Sophia wanted something as well. However, before she could say what it was, Orhan was called away, so they postponed the conversation. Meanwhile, other rookies heard that Libria's group was going down to the deeper floors. This meant they would start at the 90th floor to test their teamwork. This news reached Orhan's ears, and he worried since it was only their first trial. However, he realized it was no longer his responsibility. Honestly, he thought it was better if those ingrates failed. The scene shifted to the 90th floor of the Mazmora, where Oliver explained that this was where the debut of the reformed party of heroes would begin. Now that Orhan had been replaced and the new member was Filk, their goal was to conquer the Great Dungeon of the South. The new member thanked them for accepting him into the group. Upon hearing this, Oliver claimed that Filk was better than Orhan, though it was clear he only said it to get Luna to agree that firing Orhan was the right decision. The scene shifted to show what had happened 2 days prior. The new member introduced herself as Phil Carpenter. Oliver stated that she was an expert who had reached the 100th floor of the Western Dungeon, and now that they had a true enchantress, they wouldn't have to suffer through mediocre buffs anymore. They also mentioned that Phil had recently seen the account books Orhan handled and was surprised at how stingy he was, claiming money was meant to be spent. Oliver suggested they stop talking about Orhan and give Phil a proper welcome, and they made a toast. However, at that moment, Luna arrived and anxiously asked why Orhan was in the Great Masmora with the silver rabbits. Everyone was shocked, and Anel couldn't understand how Orhan had ended up with the rabbits in just 3 days. Luna demanded an explanation of what had happened while she was away. Anel revealed that Orhan had left the group 3 days ago, then turned to Oliver and asked if he had grown tired of them. Derry got angry and clarified that they were the ones who had kicked Orhan out quite seriously. Luna turned to Oliver to ask if it was true, and the shameless man confirmed it. Then Phil was introduced as the new enchantress. The woman with green hair introduced herself shyly, but Luna ignored her and reminded them that she had been against the idea of replacing Orhan from the start. Seeing the new member being ignored, she gripped her sword. Oliver tried to calm her down, saying Luna knew Orhan wasn't at a sufficient level for the upcoming battles. Luna disagreed, insisting that Orhan was the pillar of the group and the reason they had reached their current status. She knew that without him, they wouldn't progress in the future. Anel got angry and clarified that whatever she did, it was too late to change the decision. Luna agreed and went silent, so Oliver took the opportunity, since they were all together, to suggest reviewing the plan since it was Phil's first time working with them. He said they would first test their coordination on the 90th floor. There were no problems. They would proceed to conquer the 94th floor. Luna refused, and when Oliver asked why, she replied that she didn't want to die. Nori Jelly laughed at her, mentioning they wouldn't die on the 92nd floor. Luna admitted Phil was a skilled enchantress, but believed it was better to practice on the upper floors first. Derek said that was unnecessary since they had done it before and had easily reached the 92nd floor. Luna reminded Dreflor on last team they to the luck. Derry pointed out that they had Orhan as dead weight before, so it would be easier now. Luna almost retorted, but Oliver cut her off, stating they would only check their coordination and didn't plan to defeat the dragon. However, Derek suggested killing the dragon while they were there. Luna called it madness to go down without Orhan and asked them to reconsider. Oliver ignored her advice. He said the decision was made and he wouldn't accept any refusal. Back in the present, Oliver faced a mammoth but couldn't penetrate its defenses. When the monster charged, Derry ordered a retreat. As they pulled back, Oliver's buff vanished and his body felt heavy. Shocked, he asked Phil why the buff had disappeared so quickly, answered that she wasn't used to Oliver's fighting style yet. Oliver was puzzled because Orhan had adapted to it within just an hour on his first day. Suddenly, the monster fired a beam, which Derek managed to block slightly. However, the attack was accidentally redirected toward Nelly, who complained. Derek made an excuse that it just slipped, not understanding what happened, and continued defending. Next, Anel attacked, firing flames, but they didn't even scratch the monster. Oliver told him to take the fight seriously. Anel insisted he was serious and wondered why his offensive spells were so weak. Hearing this, Oliver ordered Phil to increase Nelly's buffs. Phil said she already had. He told her to do it again, and she did, yet Nelly's attacks remained weak. Oliver was confused because Phil's support magic was supposed to be higher than Orhan's. He wondered what was going on. Someone asked for directions, and Oliver ordered Nelly to attack the flank. Nelly was about to go, but the mammoth attacked from the sides, forcing her to retreat. Oliver ordered Phil to predict the monster's next moves. Phil screamed that she couldn't do that, but Oliver reminded her that analyzing the battlefield was part of an enchantress's job. Phil apologized. She mentioned that for now, she could only handle support magic. Anel called her useless. Oliver noticed they were unfighting like before and wondered why they were so weak. despite having a better teammate. While Luna was on the side, she asked Oliver if he understood now. Just as Luna was about to explain why they had weakened, the black dragon suddenly appeared, freezing everyone in shock as it descended rapidly and crushed their monster opponent in a single blow. Due to its sheer presence, Luna ordered everyone to flee, but Derek, Oliver, and Anel refused. They claimed they could defeat it. Since the three were stubborn, Luna could do nothing as they advanced. Derek tried to block the dragon's breath, but was thrown back after being hit. Luna immediately treated his wounds, while Oliver blamed Phil for not buffing Derek. She didn't answer, paralyzed by extreme fear. Anel tried to hurt the dragon, but his magic was too weak. When the dragon retaliated, he hid behind a rock, but it exploded, blowing him out of the fight. With Derek and Anel out of the fight, Oliver wondered what to do and asked Luna to slow down time so they could escape. Oliver shouted, snapping Phil back to reality, and he demanded buffs, which Phil provided. Now, more confident, Oliver began charging his magic convergence. Simultaneously, the dragon was preparing an attack. Oliver didn't wait and, ignoring Luna's warning to gather more magic, released his celestial flash, collided with the dragon's breath, filling the room with smoke. The impact blew Oliver away because his attack was far too weak compared to the dragon's. Everyone panicked. The girl with blue hair suggested using the Portal of Caprist, explaining it was an emergency escape magic item. It could only be used inside a dungeon and forced a connection to a different location. Oliver hesitated, but Phil agreed they could end up in any boss room on a higher or lower floor. Luna's better than Black Jordi Viagred. They carried everyone and used the portal. The dragon noticed and flew up. Before they could fully escape, it released a breath of fire to block their path. When they were safe, Derek breathed a sigh of relief. However, the others understood that something worse had happened. The black dragon had been teleported to a different boss room and might attack unsuspecting adventurers. Given the gravity of the situation, Luna suggested returning to the guild immediately to request a forced evacuation. Oliver hesitated for a moment, fearing punishment, but knew that wasn't the priority, so he ordered a return. Luna stopped him, asking if they were going to leave the others behind. Oliver looked at his companions and decided to stay, while Luna treated the two injured members. He mentioned that after requesting evacuation, they needed to defeat the dragon immediately. But for that to happen, they needed to replace Phil and bring back Orhan. Derek refused to ask Orhan for help, so Luna explained why they were weak. She clarified that they hadn't changed. They were still their normal selves. The real reason for their weakness was simply the absence of Orhan. She told Oliver that Orhan was the true source of the Celestial Flash's power, and what Oliver used earlier had almost no accumulated magic. Luna asked if they knew the basic rules of support magic, and Oliver confirmed. She explained that a buff strength depends on the caster and the duration depends on the recipient. Therefore, the enchanter must renew the buffs before they wear off. Usually, these last about 3 minutes. Phil confirmed this but noted that the party's magic resistance was extremely high. As a result, the buffs didn't even last 2 minutes, and for Oliver, it was worse only about 1 minute. Luna explained to Oliver that his body was a nightmare for an enchanter. Yet, despite that, Orhan could manage it perfectly. Oliver argued that if that were the case, Phil should be able to do it too, especially since she was supposedly a better enchanter than Orhan, whose level was lower than the others. However, Luna revealed that Orhan knew his own deficiencies. Because of that, he created original spells to compensate. Everyone was puzzled, but Luna insisted it was true. After treating their wounds, Luna hastened their departure. On the way back, Oliver remarked that even if Orhan created original spells, he still wasn't on the same level as other enchanters. Luna told him he was wrong. She explained that Orhan had a spell that increased power by over 50 times. Oliver was shocked, and Phil insisted that was impossible since even Selma could only manage about 5 times. However, Luna assured them it was true. Because of this, Oliver asked if his celestial flash depended on Orhan's support magic. Luna confirmed it, adding that it wasn't just that Tannel's offensive magic and Derek's defense were also affected. She explained that Orhan's original spells were applied to equipment and the spells themselves. That was why they didn't suddenly feel the weight or drop in power when the effects wore off. Finally, everyone understood why they were so weak now. Luna asked if they understood Oliver, but she knew it was already too late. When they exited the dungeon, other adventurers looked at them with admiration, assuming their coordination with the new enchanter was excellent. But Oliver knew deep down that wasn't true. He felt mediocre and thought he wasn't worthy of being called a hero. Yet, he still emphasized in his mind that he was the one who defeated the Black Dragon and that the group was formed because of him. Not Orhan. Oliver really was the most ungrateful of them all. And with that, today's episode ends. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon to receive all our latest updates.
After a while, they all entered the dungeon. While they were resting, Selma approached Orhan and mentioned how heartwarming it was to see how warmly the children had been treating him over the past few days. Orhan admitted he had been a bit worried about how they would react to him after the newspaper article came out. However, everyone accepted him, and Selma recalled hearing Orhan and the children talking about Albert earlier. She shared how painful his loss was for the Silver Rabbits. After the hero party defeated the Black Dragon in an incredibly difficult battle, Orhan realized that Albert didn't die because he was weak, but simply due to unfortunate circumstances. Selma continued, emphasizing how hard it is to find someone to fill the void Albert left in the guild. Orhan knew Selma was trying to recruit him, but he wasn't interested, stating that a party doesn't need 2 enchanters, a point Selma understood. However, since Orhan mentioned he was switching to the swordsman class, Selma still believed he would be a valuable team member. After this, the mission officially began, and the plan was explained to everyone before they set out. Orhan's group was assigned to Group 10, placing them at the very end of the formation. This meant they were considered the most promising group, which made Sophia a bit nervous since they were almost entirely on their own at the back. Orhan reassured her that it was a vital experience. Due to the dungeon's complex layout, they needed to learn to navigate independently in case they got separated, a sentiment Logan agreed with. Caroline, however, didn't like the idea of getting lost. Orhan explained the importance of gathering information and studying maps before a dungeon dive to avoid being caught off guard. Because of this, Caroline asked Orhan to share his knowledge, as he had traveled deeper into the dungeon than any of them. Orhan saw no problem with this and explained that the lower floors officially begin at floor 76, often featuring ice or snow themes, while the deepest floors start at floor 91. He was barely able to finish his explanation because he was repeatedly interrupted by their many questions. Meanwhile, on the surface, Luna arrived at the Adventurers Guild with the remaining members of the hero party. She immediately demanded to speak with the guild master, but the receptionist, Eleanor, informed her that he was in a meeting. Luna insisted there was no time to waste, as they needed to perform an F4 teleport to get everyone out of the dungeon immediately. Back in the dungeon, the group continued their journey, but they began to feel that something was wrong. They hadn't encountered a single monster for a long time, even in such a large room. Logan asked Orhan if this was normal, but Orhan replied that he had never experienced anything like it. It was as if the monsters were terrified of something. Caroline, growing impatient and eager to fight, got her wish when a lone goblin suddenly appeared. She rushed to attack it, but Orhan warned her to stop, shouting that the goblin was strong enough to take her down in one hit. Caroline ignored him, forcing Orhan to save her by quickly debuffing the goblin to give her time to defeat it. Caroline happily announced her victory, but the others scolded her for her dangerous recklessness. They pointed out that without Orhan, she would have been hurt, forcing Sophia and Logan into a dangerous rescue. Caroline realized her mistake and apologized. Orhan told her he wouldn't hold it against her as long as she was more careful. Since Caroline enjoyed fighting despite being a defender, Orhan offered to teach her a special technique called active defense. He explained that active defense involves baiting enemy attacks to keep them occupied while allies prepare a counterattack. By timing an attack right when the enemy is about to strike, they can interrupt or stun the foe. Caroline thought the technique was amazing, but Orhan reminded her that her main goal wasn't defeating the monster herself, but holding it off until her teammates were ready. Meanwhile, on the surface, the guild master met with the hero party. Luna explained the emergency. The black dragon had slipped through a fickle gate and was now on a random floor inside the dungeon. The guildmaster hesitated due to the massive mana required for a forced teleportation, but Luna insisted the situation was dire. Back in the dungeon, Logan asked Orhan to teach him debuff magic. Orhan advised against it, explaining that its effectiveness depends on the target's magic resistance and becomes less practical in deeper floors. Instead, he showed them a trick involving traps. When a pair of wolves approached, Orhan waited until they fell into the traps he had set. He explained to Logan that as an enchanter, his job is to maintain the party's advantage. Orhan then turned to Sophia and suggested she learn parallel casting to become stronger. Since her high-grade spells take time to activate, parallel casting would allow her to start a second spell while the first is still halfway through. Although it's difficult, Orhan believed anyone could learn to cast 2 spells at once with practice. Sophia insisted that she wanted Orhan, not Selma, to teach her. Though he wanted to decline, he couldn't say no to her expression and agreed to train her another day. On the surface, the forced teleportation was finally ready. The guildmaster ordered the hero party to return to the dungeon to slay the dragon once the spell was activated. The party panicked, knowing they weren't strong enough. Anelli tried to make excuses, but Luna cut her off, stating they would return immediately. She had one request. The guildmaster must prioritize teleporting people out from floors 40 to 50 first, as she suspected Orhan was there and they would need his help. Back with Orhan, they reached the boss room of the 50th floor and defeated a crab monster. The mission was officially over, and Orhan thought he could finally rest. Suddenly, the space above them cracked, and the black dragon appeared, striking terror into everyone. Selma and the other supervisors fell into a heavy silence, fully aware of how dangerous the dragon was. Even Orhan had no idea how to handle the situation, as they lacked the strength to defeat such a creature in their current state. Their only real choice was to try and slip past the dragon or reach the teleportation crystal. However, this was easier said than done, especially since everyone was too paralyzed by fear to move, and monsters typically target large groups of people. It was likely they would be the dragon's first victims. Orhan knew that if he ran alone, he could survive, but he could never bring himself to abandon those children. He decided to gamble everything and fight the black dragon to the death. Shouting at the other supervisors, he ordered them to do everything in their power to keep the children alive. This snapped them out of their fear, and they moved into a defensive formation while Orhan charged toward the dragon. As Orhan expected, the dragon aimed a fireball directly at the group. Despite having a barrier up, they knew it wouldn't hold against the force of the dragon's breath. But at the exact moment of impact, Orhan managed to cast a momentary buff to strengthen the barrier just enough for everyone to survive. It happened so fast that almost no one noticed except Selma, who realized Orhan had used support magic. But Orhan had bigger problems at that moment as he searched for an opening to attack. He threw a dagger toward the dragon's eye. Although the dragon immediately closed its eyes to protect itself, that was exactly what Orhan anticipated. While the dragon was blinded, he leapt into the air and targeted its neck with a powerful strike that caused a small explosion. Everyone was amazed that Orhan could produce such force with a single blow. Yet even an attack of that magnitude wasn't enough to defeat the dragon. In fact, it seemed to have taken no damage at all, which deeply worried everyone. However, Orhan assured them there was no need to worry because he had a plan. He put on a special necklace and charged again. When the dragon unleashed another fireball, Orhan sent it back using a reflective wall spell. Logan was stunned by what he saw, as he had never heard of a spell capable of reflecting an attack back at an enemy. This was because it was an original spell created by Orhan himself, and he hoped the dragon's own fire would be strong enough to wound it. Still, the creature remained unharmed. Forced to take more extreme measures, Orhan cast a status boost spell on himself, a spell that doubles all primary attribute stats. Selma remained worried, because even though Orhan was strong, simply doubling his stats didn't seem enough to match the dragon's power. Nevertheless, Orhan never intended to stop at just doubling his power. He continued to cast the status boost on himself 4 more times, bringing his strength to 32 times its original level. Selma was completely shocked. Normally, repeatedly casting the same spell only resets the duration rather than stacking the effects. She had no idea how Orhan achieved such a feat. However, she sensed that wasn't the last of his aces. With a 32-fold boost, Orhan moved so fast that the others could no longer follow him with their eyes, though he couldn't maintain it for long, as casting the equivalent of 30 spells at once placed an immense burden on his body. Wanting to end the fight quickly, he leapt toward the dragon again. While he was in mid-air, the dragon swung its tail to knock him down, but Orhan created a floating platform beneath his feet to dodge the strike. That platform wasn't made by a spell, but was a result of Orhan's special ability called magical convergence, which allows a person to gather magic into a single point and give it physical form. He could also use pure magic to propel himself through the air, making his abilities incredibly versatile. This wasn't unique to Orhan, as Oliver possessed the same ability, though Oliver used it to strengthen his attacks rather than for movement. Orhan cast a series of buffs on his sword as he rushed in for another strike. This time he managed to deal decent damage, but his body was beginning to pay the price for maintaining all those buffs. Selma saw that Orhan was struggling, but the other supervisors weren't strong enough to keep up with the dragon. Even if she joined in alone, she felt she wouldn't be of much help. For the first time in a long while, Selma felt true terror, and her body wouldn't stop shaking. Still, she committed to doing everything possible to keep the students safe, so Orhan could focus on the battle. Years ago, when Orhan was a child, he, Luna, and Oliver spent their days playing in the village, living peacefully. Everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. One day, while Orhan and Oliver were outside the village training, they returned to find the entire village engulfed in flames caused by bandits. Everyone they knew had been killed in the streets. They were devastated and blamed themselves for failing to protect those they loved. They spent the remaining time burying their friends and family. And from that day on, Orhan and Oliver promised each other they would become strong enough so that such a tragedy would never happen again. This was a promise Orhan had spent his whole life trying to keep. He would not let a single dragon stand in the way of protecting his friends. The purple glow now surrounding the dragon signaled it was about to release its strongest attack. Selma wondered what Orhan's plan was. She realized the purple cloud worked similarly to magical convergence, meaning the dragon was gathering energy for its next move, using that energy to form weapons from various directions. Orhan recalled that the last time he fought this type of monster, it used far more weapons than it was using now. It was clear the dragon was still underestimating him, and he planned to take advantage of that. As the dragon began firing its attacks, Orhan moved rapidly left and right to evade, using fireballs to distract the creature as he closed the distance. Unfortunately, due to the massive energy the dragon had gathered, its scales had become too hard for Orhan to cut. The situation worsened as the dragon bombarded him with mana attacks, leaving him no room to breathe. He conjured a rock wall to defend himself, but it wasn't as effective as he hoped because the dragon managed to curve one of its spears around the wall. This left Orhan completely open, and he only survived because he had precasted a reflective wall spell. The onlookers watched with bated breath, hoping for a victory, but Selma knew it wouldn't be easy. Even though Orhan was keeping up, he hadn't landed a truly decisive blow. Fighting alone was harder than Orhan anticipated. Despite his anger toward his former party for their betrayal, he couldn't deny how important they were. The last time they faced a dragon, Derek and Luna blocked the mana attacks. Nellie provided perfect cover fire, and Oliver's divine slash finished the fight. Now, Orhan was forced to play every role himself. Refusing to fail, he began using the active defense techniques he had taught Caroline to disrupt the dragon's movements and break its attack patterns, slowly leading it away from the students. Once he was far enough, he unleashed multiple fire blast spells. Though they did little damage, Orhan had already modified the spells into traps that absorbed surrounding mana and reactivated at set intervals with greater power. The dragon was hit by repeated explosions. The dragon's health began to dwindle, but it refused to fall and eventually destroyed the magic circles. Fortunately, Orhan had one more ace. Since Oliver had finished the dragon before with a divine slash, Orhan decided to perform his own version of the technique. As the dragon launched a fireball, Orhan released his divine slash. To ensure it wouldn't be blocked, He cast an impact buff at the moment the slash collided with the dragon's fire, allowing it to pierce through and strike the dragon directly. A massive explosion followed, and a part of the dragon's body fell to the ground. Everyone thought Orhan had won, but the dragon was still alive. It had sacrificed its own tail to block the divine slash. It was a move Orhan hadn't expected from a high-level boss. The dragon began launching even more attacks, forcing Orhan to keep running and dodging. In the heat of the battle, his buffs finally expired, and his strength returned to normal. Seeing this, Selma tried to help by casting her own status buff on him, but Orhan immediately canceled it. He told her not to interfere because her buffs weren't strong enough to make a difference in this situation. He insisted she focus on the students while he handled the dragon alone. He then cast another complex status boost on himself before hitting the dragon with a buffed Thundershock spell. The force of the explosion finally knocked the dragon out of the sky. As it crashed to the ground, everyone wondered if it was finally dead. It wasn't. Orhan was shocked the creature was still alive, especially since he was running out of options. His sword, pushed past its limit, finally shattered in his hands. However, the dragon was also exhausted. Orhan knew one final powerful strike was all that was needed. Abandoning his broken sword, he revealed his ultimate ace. He used a destruction spell to summon a pure black greatsword, a weapon no one had ever seen him use. The destruction spell squeezed highly intensified energy into the form of a blade as strong as a special rank spell. Orhan leapt for the final confrontation. Instead of charging straight in, he used the 121 reflective walls scattered across the battlefield to bounce repeatedly, gaining incredible speed. Finally, he descended from above and struck the dragon with one last blow, ending it for good. Orhan's old party is stunned to find themselves face to face with the corpse of the black dragon, teleported along with them. Amidst the shock, Luna realizes the beast is dead. Orhan nearby, leaning on his sword with the last of his strength. Despite his dire condition, he refuses her healing, simply asking her to handle the cleanup so he can go home and sleep. This makes Luna realize that Orhan must have defeated the dragon alone, as he is the only one injured on his team. However, Dererick refuses to believe the truth and begins provoking him. Orhan ignores the blockhead and walks away, which only infuriates Dererick further. Luna finally snaps, calling Dererick a bum who will never grow until he accepts he is weaker without Orhan. When a raging Dererick tries to charge her, she effortlessly freezes him in place, proving her point before Oliver intervenes to stop the fighting. Later, while soaking in a bathhouse to recover from the expedition, Selma and Sophia discuss Orhan's incredible performance. While Selma feels overwhelmed by the power gap, Sophia explains that Orhan didn't use anything mysterious. He simply mastered the basics of active defense, magic, and enchantment to a degree where he could play every role simultaneously. This realization leaves Selma feeling inferior, but Sophia reassures her that she still respects her most of all. The following morning, Orhan wakes up in pain from overexertion, but considers himself lucky. He meets Selma at a cafe, where she formally thanks him for ensuring there were no casualties. She then invites him to the Silver Rabbit clan, where the leader offers him an unprecedented position, a lieutenant in Unit 1. Flattered but haunted by his past experiences, Orhan asks for time to think it over. Orhan then heads to the Adventurers Guild, only to encounter his old party again. In a peak display of delusion, Dererick and Ellie claim credit for weakening the dragon, insisting Orhan just got a lucky final hit. After the guildmaster silences them, Orhan turns his fury on Oliver, berating him for the reckless decision to take a new enchanter to the 92nd floor. He exposes Oliver's ignorance by listing the complex technicalities of an enchanter's job, tracking individual magic resistances and buff durations, challenging Oliver to prove he actually understands the role he dismissed. Meanwhile, the kids of the Silver Rabbit clan decide to track Orhan down to convince him to join. Although Selma initially worries they will hold him back, she is moved by their desire to grow strong enough to one day stand by his side as equals. To avoid the kids, Orhan uses mana platforms to hide on a rooftop, and eventually ducks into a shop owned by an old man. The man encourages Orhan not to let his past trauma force him into a life of solitude, noting that the kids clearly care for him. Later that night on a hilltop, Orhan meets Sophia, who shares how much the Silver Rabbit clan means to her as a place where she truly belongs. Struck by her words, Orhan finally makes his choice. The next morning, he meets the clan leader and officially joins the Silver Rabbits. As he receives his uniform and a warm welcome from his new comrades, Orhan looks forward to a future where he is finally valued. And that concludes our episode for today. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to catch the next part.
Continuing our story, on the second day, we see Eren dreaming of his childhood days training with Oliver. Those training them to be heroes watched their every move intensely. Oliver showed signs of visible tension, fighting his best friend with all his might, while Eren took things lightly. Eventually, Eren threw his weapon down, fell to the ground laughing, and admitted Oliver was too strong to defeat. Oliver responded angrily, knowing Eren was actually much stronger and had always beaten him. Eren claimed his strength wasn't what it used to be, and that Oliver had surpassed him, leaving Oliver frustrated and walking away in silence. As Eren lay there, a silver-haired girl named Cyan, his close friend, ran to him. Eren jokingly admitted he was embarrassed she saw him lose, but Cyan insisted she saw his bravery and knew his true potential if he ever unleashed his real power. Eren confessed his heart had grown weak and his body couldn't endure it anymore. Cyan promised to help him solve this one day, though over time, her specific words faded from his memory. Eventually, Cyan disappeared. Elsewhere in the kingdom, the High Commander of the Guild received a surprise visit from the Southern Region leader. The leader reported that a lone individual had defeated the Black Dragon in a southern dungeon. The High Commander was shocked, initially calling it a reckless move. When he learned it wasn't Oliver who killed the dragon, his mind immediately went to Eren, despite it seeming impossible given Eren's recent state. Suspecting Eren might have found a new way to access great power, the commander ordered him to be monitored closely. Meanwhile, Cyan is revealed to be alive, leading a specialized 3-person team. After eliminating a coalition of 5 powerful rogue guilds, she is approached by a messenger in white. He informs her of the mysterious individual who defeated the Black Dragon in the north. Cyan is ordered to investigate and recruit this person or kill them if they refuse. While she doubts it's Oliver, she is prepared to eliminate whoever it is if they oppose her team. As they head north, she feels a strange unease. We learn she loved Eren throughout her childhood, but was led to believe he died, a tragedy she blames on the church. Her heart has since frozen, fueled by a desire for revenge against those who caused his death. The same time, Eren attends a meeting with the high-ranking members of the Silver Sky Rabbits Guild. He is honored for protecting students during the dragon incident, recognizing his combat prowess and administrative brilliance from his days with the hero party. The leader proposes promoting Eren to lieutenant. During the vote, one lieutenant asks if Eren is willing to sacrifice his life for the guild. Eren honestly replies that he is not, as he has a long-standing promise to keep. However, he clarifies that while he won't die for the guild as an entity, he will do everything in his power to protect the people within it. This sincerity wins them over, and he is officially promoted. Later, Eren meets his new unit, Rain 24, who insists on being his big sister despite her youthful appearance. Lucrèce 18 and Will 20, Samuel's pulse of the team. When asked how he defeated the dragon, Eren reveals 2 original spells impact, which multiplies a weapon's power 100-fold, and a second spell that boosts all his active buffs 32-fold. The team is stunned, though Eren notes these techniques are physically taxing and he can only use mid-level magic. When the team prepares for a dungeon run the next day, they discover Eren uses cheap, store-bought swords because his previous one broke. Horrified that the Dragon Slayer uses junk, they take him to the guild's master blacksmith, who coincidentally is also named Eren. The smith explains that a sword for someone of Eren's caliber requires rare materials. Eren casually produces high-level artifacts and a scale from the Black Dragon. The room goes silent as the team is reminded of the dragon that once defeated them, but Rain breaks the tension, noting that a blade forged from a dragon scale is the only thing worthy of him. And that concludes today's anime episode. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story.